Good afternoon to you in South Africa, those of you in Zimbabwe, and I want to say Happy New Year to you. 2022 is a year we are starting on a very bad note. We have got challenges between the two countries. Brothers and sisters are fighting each other. There is a lot of debate, and that happens in every home. It happens between neighbors. However, when that happens, there is a need for a conversation, there is need for dialogue. And the reason I'm making this video is I want to have a conversation from a Zimbabwean perspective to tell you the problems that I'm seeing with the current environment and the current situation that we have. And I am saying that because in this discourse, the South African narrative has been the dominant one, and Zimbabweans have not had an opportunity to air out their own perspectives because, number one, they are afraid to air out their own perspectives. Number two, there is a tacit implication by South Africans that Zimbabweans have no right to have a say. And so my issues start from there. Zimbabweans are protected by the Constitution of South Africa that was created after the defeat of apartheid, in which our country, Zimbabwe, played a very pivotal role in eliminating apartheid. And I will not hesitate to say this because South Africans have got to understand that the freedom that you have, the constitution that you brag about, was only possible because of sacrifices that were made by your neighboring countries that were called frontline states, especially countries like Zimbabwe that fought wars for the independence of South Africa. Zimbabwe fought a war in Zimbabwe, in Matabeleland, known as the Matabeleland Unrests, and it went on to fight a war in Mozambique, in which 12,000 Zimbabwean troops were deployed to fight apartheid-armed Renamo bandits who were being assisted by the CIA to destabilize Mozambique and other frontline states so that South Africa would not get its independence. The defeat of Renamo, the defeat of Super Zapu in Matabeleland, and the defeat of the Boers and their proxies in Angola led to the defeat of the apartheid government, led to the defeat of the CIA. And all this is important for the context of why we are where we are. The CIA, unhappy with the contribution that was made in Zimbabwe and by Zimbabwe for the independence of South Africa, is part of the reason why they've imposed sanctions on Zimbabwe, together with its participation in Congo and taking land, which is also an influence upon other nations, particularly South Africa, to do the same. Zimbabwe was put under illegal sanctions by all Western countries: Europe, Canada, Australia, United Kingdom, and the United States. Those sanctions have been deemed illegal and violations of human rights, and we call them crimes against humanity by persecution, according to the UN. This is what is displacing Zimbabweans into South Africa. And so within that context, we accept the right of the South African government to make its laws, to make laws that suit its people, to ensure that its people will be employed. However, in the context that this employment, this freedom that South Africa enjoys, came at the sacrifice made by countries like Zimbabwe, it is therefore an expectation by us as Africans in African culture for South Africa to stand by Zimbabwe when it's being attacked by the rest of the Western community because of its contribution to Pan-Africanism, because of its contribution to the liberation of South Africa, its contribution to the destruction and removal of the Rhodesian government by military means, and its contribution in Mozambique, Congo, Somalia, and even the killing of Sivimbi in Angola to end the Angolan civil war. Zimbabwe has done a lot for the African continent, but the problem is that the government of Zimbabwe has not told this story. This is why I have to do this video. This is why I have to make this video, to remind South African leaders, to teach South Africans that a sacrifice was made by Zimbabwe for South African freedom. We were under threat of nuclear weapons. There was a battle at Casa Banana at which we caught the leader of Renamo and could have ended the war in 1996, but we could not end that war then because the apartheid government threatened to drop nuclear weapons on Harare if we did not let Afonso Dhlakama go. These are the sacrifices made by Zimbabwe for the freedom that South Africa enjoys today. Thabo Mbeki doesn't say it, Jacob Zuma doesn't say it, the South African government doesn't say it, the SABC don't say it. That's why I have to say it as a Zimbabwean. And I say that it's now incumbent on the Zimbabwean government to tell this story so that South Africans understand what it took for you to secure independence. The underdevelopment you see in Zimbabwe today The underdevelopment you see on the African continent in general is caused by the sacrifices taken for your freedom. And when that freedom came, apartheid companies were allowed to continue. They were allowed to continue to exist. These are apartheid companies that were sabotaging our countries. The apartheid army was allowed to continue to exist as executive outcomes, and other private armies that go on the continent and destabilize the continent, destroying countries, leading to the refugee crisis that you see. And now what we are saying is that when Zimbabwe is under sanctions for its contribution to South Africa, and South Africa chooses to target the main strategy by which Zimbabwe is surviving, which is utilizing its workforce, its educated workforce, to go all across the world to earn the foreign currency that its companies and institutions and its investors cannot earn because of sanctions. When South Africa goes and says that those people must be removed from South Africa is tacitly implementing the same sanctions that the West has implemented by other means. They're assisting the US sanctions to bite Zimbabwe and to bring the undemocratic changes and to take away our sovereignty. This is why now you are seeing people like Advocate Chitando bringing into the discussion forum that if South Africa is now going to revert to assisting illegal sanctions, to assisting imperialism, to then exert punishment upon its neighbor who secured its freedom, maybe it's time that we begin to have a discussion about South Africa paying reparations. He has brought it in a different way by starting to talk about the aviation bill, what he's calling the Motsoaledi aviation bill to charge South African flights over Zimbabwe. What is being said by Simba Chitando, what is being said tacitly by his actions, is that if South Africa is going to revert to apartheid laws, pass laws for its neighbors, when your leaders went into our countries and they were able to stay in our countries, get papers from our countries, and they were never treated as illegals, and they were there even when there was a risk of being bombed, when there was a risk of being attacked, when they were being attacked, and we took that hit, we lost over $5 billion to ensure that South Africa got its independence, then maybe we need to start having a discussion about South Africa paying reparations to the SADC region. Reparations that go over 120 billion US dollars, because South Africa is illustrating a lack of reciprocity. Now, when Simba Chitando brings ideas like this to the table, you hear people like Clayson Monyela, a spokesperson for DIRCO, a government department that is supposed to look out for international relations, and saying Simba Chitando must be deported for freedom of speech, for expressing himself, and for participating in a discourse in South Africa that affects South Africans and Zimbabweans. That is a contravention of the Constitution of South Africa. And it is only being done to him because he's black. It is only being done to him because he's a Zimbabwean. It's only being done to him because he is an African. And we are saying that Zimbabweans, irrespective of the fact that South Africa has been able to give them the right to be here, are human beings and should not be treated any different to the Europeans who continue to say what they want, to the Indians, to the Chinese who continue to say what they want in this country. Zimbabweans' rights cannot be removed. That's why I'm speaking. We are testing this constitution that you say is the best in the world. That does it give you the right to start shutting up people because they're from Zimbabwe or Africa? We fought for this country's independence. And if we have to get deported for saying that fact, then deport us. Begin to do what it is that the apartheid government did, which is to deport people and to shut people up. But we won't stop talking, because this country's independence is incumbent on blood that was shed in Africa. 600,000 lives. Those 600,000 lives were our mothers, brothers, sisters. And we secured this country's freedom with our blood and sacrifice, which now you are refusing to sacrifice for us. You are now implementing Western sanctions. And the way that it's being done by Minister Motsoaledi, with hate, disdain, disrespect for our governments, the question is, what is the objective of that? And that's why we need to have the discussion.